All right, so for this worksheet of using the line to create value practice, you're going to be using the reference image on the left, so this image, as a guide for where the dark versus the light values are located. This is only using line techniques, right? And then you're going to be creating those matching values in the image on the right. So think back to this worksheet of using only these line techniques. So we are not doing any sort of blending. You're not going to be going through and doing the, nice shading over it. It's all just lines. So maybe you like hatching, maybe you like cross hatching, maybe you want to do a combination of different things. You do some contours, but pay attention. Like what I like to do is kind of give myself a guide. So maybe I would draw in here. Like if you actually look, there's a shadow difference between these. So I would do something like that because I don't have those over here. So generally speaking, it looks like it's going from here to the corner of that window. It goes straight up from here-ish, and then it just goes straight over. Okay, once again, like just giving myself as a guide. The rest of the lines, it looks like show pretty well. And then you're just gonna look, right? So this is like a darker gray. So I'm going to be creating a darker gray here. This is a lighter gray, so I'm gonna be creating a lighter gray over here. But pay attention, we got lighter, and this is still light gray, but this is a little bit darker than that. So pay attention to those details as you're going throughout this. So you can check and see how I do that in here. So you can see that I'm giving myself some guides here again as to kind of where that really dark area is versus where the medium gray is versus where the lighter area is of the sky, because the sky is not just one value. So that's kind of why I am giving myself those like little squiggle guidelines. Very, very light. It's not an accurate thing. It's not, right or wrong. It's just to help make sure that I am going to be having the most success in that sky area. But I am using the same technique throughout the sky so that it is unified and therefore looks better. One thing that I find helpful using the different techniques is that they do create different textures. So consider how maybe the technique you are choosing to use might create a texture for whatever it is that you're creating, but also how it could create contrast. So using cross hatching next to a hatching area is going to help that pop out from each other on top of the values. The values do create that contrast, but so do the textures. You can see that I'm going in with just a lighter cross hatching here. But then when I go over and do this shadow on this side of the building, I'm doing that little scribble effect just because I want that to pop out a little bit different. And it's just a practice. So it's also to see maybe I don't like the way it looks, or maybe I do like the way that it looks. Only way to test it is by testing it. So that's kind of how I do that section. I want to avoid any hard outlines. So you could see that I kind of went in and added a little bit darker hatching right along the edge of the roof there, and then kind of went back into my scribbles. So I do a lot of back and forth additions. I will use a technique in one location and then I'll use it in another location. I will say that I do regret going as dark as I did in this little section here on that wall, just because I found that those shadows in the window area, I guess you could say, ends up being darker, and it was really tough to get them darker than that other wall. So I did struggle with that one a little bit. So food for thought. I always kind of say, that let your values build up, and I just started with a little bit too much pressure there. But I think the other values end up working out just fine. So start to notice how some of those different textures are allowing the different building shapes and different walls to kind of pop out from each other. I'm still using value as well. And then on those gray areas, I'm not actually going in the entire area. I'm just going in part of it. So I can let those gray areas be gray, but then those white areas can really pop. So it is good on highlights. Let them be highlights. Leave them white. It's okay to do that, and then go in and make sure that you're adding in the dark areas where maybe you need some darker areas, right? So I always kind of refer to that photo, kind of go back and forth, and I'm going through and being like, oh, well, I don't like how smooth of a transition that is. So I add in a few more values there, or I darken it, maybe add some more texture, different things create different effects. So test them out, see whatever it takes to get those values fairly accurate with the photo on the left is going to be what's going to help you out the most. All right, best of luck.